Okay.
Bill Freeman, everyone, right here.
Good job.
Hi, everyone. So, my name is Bill Schoolman, and I have a group called Tax Relief Now. And I was the first one to sue the MTA over the MTA payroll tax. Wow. In December of 2009, I served the MTA and New York State government over the MTA payroll tax because I'm an angry taxpayer and I'm sick and tired of what's going on both in Albany and in Washington. So, everybody talks about getting rid of this tax, but I want to give you some important facts that are backed up by a handout. Karen Pope, okay. Karen is here. She's our executive director for Tax Relief Now, and she has a handout if you don't have one, and it contains a lot of the backup that you're going to hear the details of. No one gets abused more than Long Islanders when it comes to the MTA. Nobody. Not the people in Westchester, Rockland County, wherever. Long Islanders pay and pay and pay. And the reason that we pay is because we're subject to two ways of getting off Long Island. The Long Island Railroad or the bridges and tunnels. How do you feel about paying $13 round trip for across the Neck Bridge? Yet if you take the Tappan Zee Bridge, that costs you $5 round trip. And if you were to take the George Washington Bridge across the Hudson, that's $4 round trip. And the only difference between those bridges is who owns them. The MTA owns the Neck Bridge, the Triborough Bridge, the Lincoln. They own the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, and of course they own the Long Island Railroad. So whenever you have to travel off Long Island, you have to pay to the MTA. Long Islanders are paying outrageous, and what I want to point out is unnecessary fees. Here's a bunch of did you know. Did you know that none of the service cuts by the MTA were necessary? None of them. Did you know that the increases in fares for both the railroad as well as the bridges and tunnels, they also were completely unnecessary? Did you know that the MTA payroll tax itself, which affects everybody, every employer in the Metropolitan Commuter Transportation District, that tax completely unnecessary? Did you know that the MTA demanded a bailout from taxpayers while they were hoarding $56.2 billion of assets, mostly in unnecessary real estate holdings? They had the money. All of this was unnecessary. Did you know that when the MTA hit us with all the service cuts, as well as the fare increases, they claimed it was over an $800 million shortfall. But they were sitting with $3.7 billion of cash investments in liquid assets wanted $1.8 billion from the MTA payroll tax. Completely unnecessary. The MTA is supposed to be a public benefit corporation. In fact, it's nothing but an employee benefit corporation. New York State tax relief, we believe that the MTA is absolutely a failed business model that could never be saved by a bailout. Number two, we believe that non-essential assets, primarily real estate holdings, must be sold off. We believe that service cuts must be restored. Fares must be brought under control. And of course, the MTA payroll tax must be repealed. And last, we believe that public and private partnerships will lead the way should be explored by a non-partisan commission. I'd like to give you a quote from one of my partners in crime. Perhaps some of you know him. Mike DeLuise, president of the Melville Chamber of Commerce. For 45 years, the MTA has been the schoolyard bully. They beat us up, they take our lunch money, and they've been doing it for 45 years, and they accumulated that lunch money, and they purchased $56.2 billion worth of assets. And all of that, most of which are real estate holdings,